Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the very first Williamson Herald Weekly Report. I'm Joe Williams along with Charles Pulliam. And Charles, it's good to have you back. It's just when football season gets here, you just show up ripping and raring to go.
It's part of the routine now. Every Friday we got to be doing this, and we're just looking forward to this opening week because, man, we got some great games lined up.
Big games indeed, and the first one starts right here at Brentwood High School there. The Bruins getting that last practice on. Charles, this is probably the oldest, bitterest is not the correct term, most intense rivalry.
I like that.
In the county. I mean, you could put these two schools and have a tiddlywinks competition, and you could sell tickets and draw a crowd.
Well, I think you penned it once as the original rivalry. There you go. I like that a lot. But again, we talked a little bit about how these matchups have gone. I mean, there's just never that much that separates these teams. No matter one team's down, one team's up, this is always going to be the one that everybody circles year in and year out. I'm just excited to see how these two battle it out.
I was just saying, this Franklin squad last year went through a lot of almost, and that's what Donnie Webb told us for our preseason outlook, which is coming this Thursday in the Williamson Herald, by the way. Almost, and this game was a classic example. Their opener last year, they lead 10-7, 8 minutes to play. Carson Shacklet, his crew, march it down the field, and they wind up losing 14-10. That's what Coach Webb kept saying was, we were so close. It was almost. We've got to get past that this year.
Well, and that was a 3-7 finish on the year with those wins in the final 2 weeks as well. But what, 4 or 5 games decided by a touchdown or so? This Franklin team comes back with the Matt Gaka. They got a new quarterback in Josh Nichols, a junior, 6'2" kid. We saw a little bit of him play at the Jamboree just this last week and seen a lot of positives out there. He's got Chancellor Bright at wideout. That's a good name. You'll see lots of that. But I think the defense for this Franklin team will be pretty special to see because they got 8 returners coming back. And when you go to the other side, Brentwood defensively, that's one of their biggest question marks. We got a lot of those playmakers back, minus the QB at Carson Shacklet, but 14 of their top 15 tacklers graduated. So who fills those shoes?
Not only that, on offense, though, they lost Shacklet, they lost Caden Dreyer, they lost Parker Bullion. I mean, it's funny because you're right. The defense looks solid. The offense, you kind of wonder about. But I got to tell you, the Jamboree game, they did pretty much what they wanted to when they wanted to.
And that's a 2-quarterback system right now because you got the senior and Dylan Stevens stepping in. He knows the system, a little more advanced, but a young sophomore in Granzow, Cade Granzow, watched a lot of him play baseball and get them into that championship game for the 2nd year in a row. This is a good all-around athlete kid. He's tall, he's got good IQ on the field, but they combined for 5 touchdowns and just rolled in the Jamboree. It looked pretty solid, but a lot of that is Chase Bishop, Avery Williams. They get Carter McKechnie back. I mean, they got all their pieces really offensively when it comes to some of those weapons, and it's just kind of neat to see how these quarterbacks are going to figure that out. Who's Crawford going to go with? Is he going to go with the senior or the young sophomore? I think it's the senior to start, but I think Cade's coming in strong.
I think he'll get his chances. Now, that's here, and if you want to see that game, you better get to Brentwood High School early on Friday, unless you want to park somewhere down in McGavick Farm somewhere. Now, the other game that's going to be a big one, but the problem here is you don't know. You're going to need a road map to figure out where this one's going to be. And that's the Battle of 840, where Fairview comes to battle Page in their new field.
Well, maybe.
If it's ready.
Maybe.
Maybe.
If it's not at Page, it's going to be held at Nolensville, which has a new field as well when you think about how new Nolensville is. But for that season start, you kind of feel for the Page kids a little bit because they're just looking on it, they're working on it, but just unable to possibly use it right now. So that might throw a little clamp into how big this game is. But the Battle of 840 last year was a great one as well. I think Page comes away with that victory, and a big piece of that was Michael Burdick. And he's back this year for the Patriots, and it'll be interesting to see how the Patriots just kind of come out of that because this should be a home game, but it might be more of a neutral one. So we'll see.
And I told some folks earlier today, that's going to be tough. We don't know where that game is going to be yet.
Not confirmed.
Not confirmed. So here's what I'm going to suggest. Keep following at CS Pulliam on Twitter or at WH Sports. And, of course, check out our website at WilliamsonHerald.com, and we'll keep you as updated as can possibly be. That's
all you can do.
And probably Coach Chris Hughes and his bunch at Fairview, that may be the way they find out where that bus is going when it pulls out.
Chris might be reaching out to us.
Yeah, who knows? Fairview coming back. They've got a new quarterback. They've moved the Cam Harris-Lusk kid. Now he is kind of out in space and doing his thing. They're going to be just as strong as they ever were.
Well, this is an exciting team. The Hickman County kid, Brock, coming in. Brock, I got his note here. Brock Harris.
Yeah.
Stepping in, probably be taking over those quarterback duties from Cam Harris-Lusk. But Lusk is one of those all-around athlete kids. I mean, he played point guard on the basketball team that reached the region finals. I mean, this is just an all-around player. He threw for almost 1,200 yards last year, rushed for another 700, 17 touchdowns. Wherever you plug him in, he's going to make an impact. And I think Coach Hughes sees the transfer coming in as an opportunity to be like, why don't you just focus on one thing or the other? And that's pretty exciting when you think about Fairview. But on top of that, they're just a big team. They get all their linemen back, it seems like. Some of these names that we've known, Jackson Clevenger, the region lineman of the year last year. I mean, some of these guys coming in, Fairview has a lot of the same faces we've seen, and I expect them to be right at that top of that region again.
Chris Hughes has a reason to be smiling, and it has nothing to do with the off-season mean machine, I can tell you, you know. He's got a lot of reason to smile. Our third game that we're going to be watching down in Thompson Station, where Independence will take on Oakland. Indy looked so good in the Wilco-Ruco Jamboree. Oakland had to kick an uncontested field goal on the last play of the game to beat Ravenwood. Being at home, Scott Blade just might have something for these guys.
And I think this is one of those years where he's pretty optimistic about this. We talked about last year at 6-6, how it was almost like a down year, which is weird to say. I mean, you're right at 500 in a very tough region, and you make it to the playoffs. You do all these things, but we've just grown so accustomed to seeing Independence into December.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so they're really high up where they should be or where they want to be, but starting off the year against a team like Oakland, I mean, this is one of the best teams in the state. And the players you see, every one of these guys almost we're going to be seeing on Saturday and potentially on Sunday in the future. I mean, there's some great players on this Oakland team. This is going to be a fun game to see because Nathan Sisko, we've heard great things about him. For Independence at quarterback, you got TJ Sheffield, the Purdue commitment at wide receiver. I see them with their weapons, and we'll just see how they handle that defense from Oakland.
And I don't know that, but their defense is going to be pretty good in and of itself with Huner back there at safety again and the whole bunch. Now, that gets us out of Thompson Station, and just down the road from there in Spring Hill, it'll be Summit going to see the Raiders, and I promise you the Spartans want to get off to a good start.
Yep, and a big, the catalyst really I see is George Odumegwu. He came in last year, really filled in, was the complement to Ty Carter, the Mr. Football finalist. But when Carter goes down with the ACL, you turn right to George, and he came through as the lead back there. Big season from him. Expect even more bigger things this year. But when you're Summit, they have to replace, I think, a whole offensive line here.
That's the hard part.
And how's George going to overcome seeing just new faces to run behind? But it's just like you said, Coach Brian Coleman there has just, you want to get started on the right foot, and this is an opportunity for Summit. Rivalry game against Spring Hill, some familiar faces for Spring Hill with Bubba Johnson down there, the Page transfer, and I think this is just going to be a fun game.
The other game we'll be watching, and it's in Franklin, where the Centennial Cougars get to take on their rival Ravenwood. I keep thinking about last year. Ravenwood's got to be upset. The only blemish on their record in the region last year was that opening week slap that the Cougars put on them.
These guys are surprisingly young. I mean, we looked at them last year. New coach in Matt Daniels playing, his first year with them. They go 10-3 and make it to the quarterfinals for Class 6A. But they go back to this first game and they're kind of like, well, we would have had that one.
Yeah.
And that's why I think this one's been circled for a while. We saw good things from them at the Jamboree. Again, a lot of these skill players returning are juniors now. So we're going to see a lot of these same guys next year, which is even scarier to think about. And for Centennial, it'll be neat to see. They got a new quarterback coming in Grayson Marcel.
Yep.
Big kid, I think 6'4", 190. How's he going to handle this defense for Ravenwood? It's just a lot of questions here, but I think when it's motivation-wise, Ravenwood's kind of got the edge here because you go back to the game last year.
Look for a big year this year out of Centennial's number 4, Jariel Wowo Wilson.
Yeah. Austin Pay commit, 17 touchdowns last year, rushed for nearly 1,100 yards. He is a go-to guy. Also, The exciting side is Coach Matt Kreisky putting Trey Carlton. He wants Trey and Jeriel on the field at the same time. So we're going to see
That's going to be scary.
We're going to see some Carlton at wide receiver, I think, which is just going to be neat because this is another all-around athlete that that's some fun stuff to watch. Those two kids are awesome.
I think that'll be a fun group. Now, that's going on here in the county. The first team that'll take the big trip, I'll say for right now, will be Nolensville. It's got to go down to Fayetteville, face Coach Alvin Palmer, a former head coach at Franklin High School, former head coach at Page High School, went down to Hazel Green, Alabama for a couple of years, and then went back to Fayetteville. It's about 2 miles from Lincoln County High School, and you think of all the great Lincoln County teams, and he just kind of swept up the athletes, and this is going to be a tough opening game.
Coach Paul Derrick, new head coach here for Nolensville, with the first senior class for the Knights. I mean, this is a young school, made it to the playoffs, did some proving last year, but now it's really, can they make that next step, and why not start it on the road for a tough game like this? But Brandon Wharton, Zach Campbell, Tim Stayskull, we got a lot of familiar names here for this Nolensville team, and I think they got a bright future, especially just being the first seniors. I mean, they got to make an impact right away.
BGA opens up at home. They'll take on another mid-state rival in Forest High School out of Chapel Hill, and there's some big expectations over on Mike Hatcher.
New quarterback, Nick Simptonfelter. Already got
very good.
Been practicing, right?
He came out of the Brentwood Blaze program, as a matter of fact.
But he's already picked up a Valparaiso offer. See a lot of good things from him. He obviously played right behind one of our great guys to come through the county last year, who just set a lot of records in the area for BGA and beyond. But we'll see what Nick can do with a tough team like this. Defensively, the Georgia Tech commit there in Chico Bennett, leading that linebacker core. BGA goes, I think, 11-2 last year. A lot of good pieces back from that team as well. And we'll just see what Nick can do with the junior quarterback there.
Hillsboro comes to visit Brentwood Academy just down the road here, so trust me, Granny White Pike is going to be busy on Friday night, and this is a great metro out of county kind of battle, Charles, and you expect it should be a good contest, but you just wonder if there's anybody truly prepared for Brentwood Academy.
That's the thing. This is a team trying to be a four-peat this year, which is just. That's just weird to say sometimes. It was weird to say a three-peat because that doesn't happen that often. They have been the class in the state, let alone in Division II. And then bringing in a team like Hillsboro. I look at the lines right here in this game as a pretty fun matchup because you got the three returning offensive linemen for Brentwood Academy led by Nate Clifton. And, of course, on the other side is the defensive lineman in Joseph Honeysucker, a Memphis commit. But these are some big bodies that are going to be going at it and a lot of great players on both sides.
Stratford will visit CPA. There's another one that you got to think about that's going to be pretty good.
Yep, and CPA was kind of my team last year. I looked at them making it all the way to the championship. They lose in the semifinals, but a big part of that was losing Kane Patterson, the Ohio State commit, to that ACL injury. I want to see where he is. The word is he's very healthy. He got that knee back, full strength. But beyond Kane, there's Bryce McCormick. There's the Henderson kid. They get their quarterback back, and Ryan Elledge, he's got a Valpo offer. I think Valparaiso's coming in here and looking at a lot of local kids.
Exactly.
But why not? We got some great kids there, but this CPA game, that should be a fun one.
3 other big games we'll be watching in the county this week. You've got Father Ryan hosting Overton. The Bobcats coming over in what's become a big neighborhood rivalry as former Ravenwood and Centennial coach Brian Rector builds a strong program for the Irish.
Rector in his 3rd year here with Father Ryan in the toughest division, I think, when you think about Division II. Like, you cannot beat this. NBA, BA, their rival in Pope John Paul II. This is, your region lineup is not that fun.
Yeah.
And Coach Rector has Seamus O'Connell, a quarterback, coming back in, threw for more than 1,400 yards last year. He's got some of those players back. Antonio Wright's going to be kind of running the ball the most there, but I like where Father Ryan is. And like you said, this is just a fun first game matchup as it's become just a little rivalry in some ways, and seeing those two teams in the neighborhood go at it is just a lot of fun.
2 miles, it's not really that far anymore anyway. FRA has to go up to Davidson County on the north side, if you will, up in the Joelton area. And our final game has Grace Christian Academy going to Mount Juliet Christian. And Charles, the GCA guys tried to get the TSSAA to allow them to play not necessarily a whole schedule because they're down to 15, 16 players. Now they're going to make them play the whole thing. You worry about them a little bit. This may be one, though, where hopefully they can get off to a good start.
Well, and this, again, this team is right on the brink of making that transfer to Division II. They had 29 players suit up last year and lost 15 of those to graduation.
Yeah.
So, and in that 15-2, your all-around stud, Austin Amore, led them to that first playoff win, 6-5 overall record. Coach Rusty Smith got his hands full there. Going to be, just trying to get the numbers more than anything. You just need bodies down there. But on the road to start, it'll be just interesting to see what GCA can do in their final year in Division I.
Real quick, one other note that is non-high school game as the Tennessee Youth Football League gets started. And I mentioned it only because you were talking about a couple of these kids, Connor Beavan here, I think, and Nick Simpenthelter, both came through the Brentwood Blaze organization. You've got Wowo Wilson and that bunch that came through the Cowboy organization. We've seen them all over the years, and it's great to see them there. Cowboy Bowl is Saturday, by the way, at Jim Warren Park. Now, before we get to Saturday, of course, we get to Friday. But before we get to Friday, we get to our favorite publication day of the year, and that's the Thursday before the first game, because that's when you get a chance to see the Williamson Herald football. We call it a tab, a media guide, a fan guide. All I know is it's an award-winning piece that's got everything in it that you need to get ready for the season.
Schedules and more. I mean, we feature all 15 of our coverage area teams. All the teams we've mentioned today are going to be a part of this. You see players to watch. You get a little bit of the insight from last year, what to expect. The schedule is my big thing. You get to see two different schedules here, team-by-team breakdown, week-to-week breakdown. It's a piece, it's a tool you could use all season, so be sure to find your copy right away.
Yep, it's on newsstands. I know you can get them at Kroger's, and of course you can get them by subscribing. Just call the Herald at 615-790-6465. Ask for Renee and wish her a happy birthday.
That's right.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Renee. Yeah.
So the first one is done. This is always fun. It gives us a chance to get our feet back under us. Obviously, this is not one that we'll be sending to anybody to review for any awards, but we've had a good time. I want to say thanks to the folks, Coach Ron Crawford, his crew here at Stratford. Listen at me here at Brentwood, for letting us hang out for a little while and do this.
It's just going to be a fun first week here. Opening week, as always, just exciting stuff. We'll get into our routine. You'll see us here every Tuesday roughly. And, be sure to check us out online, YouTube, Twitter, everything, all the social media. We're out there. We got the videos. We got the photos. We got the stories. We got the team.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, mighty proud of that team. That includes Doug Dyer, David Dawson, Mickey Burnell, Kendall Buchanan,
yep.
Becky Williams, Charles Pulliam,
Josh
Vardaman. I'm telling you, we finally got this thing covered. If you don't believe me, check out the website, www.williamsonherald.com, Friday night between 10:30 and 11, and watch this stuff come rolling in.
We'll see you Friday.
All right, see you Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you next week on the Williamson Herald Weekly Report.